Welcome, everybody. Excited to have you here for another episode of our Living Beyond the Numbers podcast. I'm your host, Jude Boudreaux, here with Director of Positivity, Caleb Arringdale.
Hello.
And today we're joined by Matt Knoll. He's one of our shareholders. He's a senior financial planner in our office in Moline, Illinois, in the Quad Cities area. Matt is also the chair and leads our investment committee. And he's our lead trainer for the new financial planners who join our team. So it's really a wealth of knowledge and plays a lot of important roles for our firm. So Matt, welcome.
Yeah, excited to be here and be on the early episodes of this podcast. I think it's got some cool futuristic outlooks for it too. So
thanks. Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be a neat new thing for us in a way. You know, we all talk about the team and I know how we interact, but hopefully a way to bring some of that backstage forward to the front stage for our clients.
Yeah, there's certainly enough that goes on behind the scenes. So yeah, excited about it.
All right, great. So yeah, Matt, why don't you just paint us a little picture? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been with the Planning Center for like 12 years full time, but then also add in a little extra as an intern and work in our Moline office and live in the Quad Cities and really kind of enjoy the community aspect of that. And also in my personal life, got some kids that I wrangle around and involved in the music scene, playing a band locally, and then I'm involved on like a board for a community music charity organization as well. So pretty exciting stuff. And it's a little bit about me.
Quick question on that then. So many of the people here at TPC are musicians of some variety. So why do you think that is? Why are so many of us somehow involved in the music scene?
That is a good question. You know, it's sometimes, I don't know, it's kind of weird to think about it like this, but there can be like a synergy in music, I think, and maybe some of that is overflowed and connected outside of the actual music itself, but that maybe synergy still exists, and just like-minded people with similar interests somehow found themselves working together.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely we talk about our practice being an ensemble, which is a musical term, and there's a lot of collaboration that goes on here too. So maybe that, one of us is part of that embeds itself in here. So Matt, you mentioned, obviously you've been working here full time for a while, but you had some part-time stints before. So kind of how did it start with the Planning Center?
Yeah. Well, I guess you got to go back to college. So shout out to Iowa State University. That's where I did my undergrad. And, I started looking for internships while I was in college, and I interviewed with a few places, couple big firms that said, hey, can you give me a list of 200 people to contact and sell insurance to? And I had a very different experience when interviewing with the Planning Center. So that's kind of where I got started and really enjoyed the process. And in fact, my folks were clients of the Planning Center as well, which was kind of my first exposure to what we do. And Marty, who's our founder, and getting involved with the Planning Center. So,
yeah, well, and glad you brought up Marty there, because I was going to ask about that. So Marty founded the Quad Cities office that was named the original name of the Planning Center, and then we've brought in these other offices. But you worked directly with Marty for a long time. So what was it like working with him for all those years?
Yeah, Marty was great to work with. I loved working with Marty. He, is an individual that I think has a lot of wisdom and built a firm to continue on past himself, which I feel like is a little rare sometimes in especially like sole practitioner business owners, but really was kind of like unselfish when it came to the way he did his business, treated, employees and coworkers. And then also just a great guy to know and how he treated clients was pretty fun to witness too. So
We were just talking about how he didn't call it the Kurtz Center or Kurtz Financial, but instead of gave it a more generic name that could live on past him.
I don't know if he like had that idea when he first opened the door, but certainly he built the foundation to make that happen down the road. And I sat with Marty probably 4 to 5 years before his retirement on pretty much like every client meeting. And he did such a good job of kind of talking to clients and being like, well, in 4 or 5 years, I'm not going to be around anymore and Matt's going to be your guy. And I think that was just a really neat thing to see from, that mentorship role and a lead advisor role, and also actually made that succession planning pretty successful when he did retire. So.
Yeah, I know many of us have a long history and special relationship with Marty, so I always like to try to highlight that whenever I can. So now, yeah, so like, why don't you tell us more about your current role within the planning center? You kind of highlighted, Marty, pointing a number of clients to you, and so tell us, more about what do you do for the firm?
Yeah, so maybe like a little bit of background too. Like when I started, it was a much different firm than what it is now. Now that was like 12 years ago, right? A lot changes in 12 years. But I kind of worked in a lot of different fields like operations and trading, and second chair as a lead, to like advisors and client meetings. And that kind of like led up to, once I got my CFP, to becoming a senior planner. And that's kind of my primary responsibility now, is meeting with clients, helping them figure out life and money and all the connections and extra stuff that comes with that stuff. Right. So, that's kind of what I really focus on, but, I do a lot of other things as well. Like I still, lead our investment committee, and help oversee like our trade desk projects and help out with some of those projects as well. And then recently we've hired quite a few new employees, which I've been training and helping them get up to speed to feel comfortable and, being able to add value to the planning center in their own unique ways as well.
Yeah, that's so great. And then, I often tell the new team members when they come on, it's such a gift that you are involved with that. Because I think your way of being in conversation in those things is just tremendous. And so I'm really excited that, we have you taking that role and spending so much time with those planners as they come into the team.
Yeah, thanks, Jude. Well, and selfishly, I get energy out of that. I kind of enjoy helping people learn, and that actually flows, in with client meetings and with the training. Just helping people kind of understand and learn and get to a better spot. So, but appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, for sure. Well, since you brought up the investment committee and you're, kind of lead our way there, I'd really like to talk a little bit about investments. We can't really get into any specifics because whenever you're listening to this, this will have been weeks away. So we're not going to talk about what's happening on any given day ever on this podcast in the marketplace. But I think we can talk about kind of just broadly like our investment philosophy. So where would you begin? Where would you like start to talk about that with somebody?
Yeah, and I could probably go super deep and talk for like 2 hours and bore everybody on this particular topic, but I'll try and keep it pretty high overview. And, in general, there's a couple different ways you can invest, and we try and keep a diversified, low cost portfolio, buying a lot of different funds that are going to participate in what the market's doing with some, active levers to try and capture opportunities when they're there and protect people from risk, right? That's kind of the overall goal. It's never a gut feeling of what Matt has, or, I'm going to say, oh, I know something about this stock that nobody else in the world knows, so I'm going to buy that. That is not the way we do our investment philosophy. But what I will say is it's very academic based and data driven, that I do feel like it is the best thing, in my opinion, for our clients.
I'm just thinking about if anyone's ever sat in on a meeting with Matt ever, He will draw you a speedometer and he'll show you exactly how you are invested based on that speedometer. It's the classic Matt drawing.
I have to admit, I'm kind of a whiteboard guy. So if you're ever in a meeting with me, I'll most likely be using the whiteboard at some point.
Nice. I wish we had a way to do that here, but we'll have to figure that one out. So we've got our investment philosophy, and can you share with us just a bit about rebalancing? That's an important part of the process. So kind of in a nutshell, how would you tell clients how that works?
What I'll kind of start with is markets go up and down, right? Like that's the only thing that's certain about it is at some point it's going to go up and some point it's going to go down. When that time is, nobody really knows, right? But what we kind of use rebalancing is it's a tool to say, okay, how do we kind of trim off some of the growth after things have gone up? And then how do we buy some of the dip or things that are on sale when things go down, right? And over time, sometimes our emotions are telling us the opposite of that. But when you look at it as a practice, right? Selling when things are high and buying when things are low, is built in as a tool to kind of capture some of those opportunities.
Can you go more into that emotional component? Like, I know there's been some great research on this, but emotionally, what do people tend to do?
Well, I think Warren Buffett, who I think this week actually just said that he's stepping down, has a great quote of be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. So in our minds, psychologically, we are not built to be great investors because when things look great, we say, oh, look at this shiny object. Let's buy some of that. I want some of that, right? And vice versa. When things are going down, it strikes up this component in our brains that says, oh, I've got some fear going on and I'm going to sell out or get out of it and panic. And so if it was strictly emotions tied to investing, us as humans are not naturally good at that at all.
Yeah, it's a fascinating part of this process, and I often say, our clients are the people and not the numbers, and we're these feeling machines that are guided by that. We're not thinking robots that sometimes have feelings. So we've got to find ways to try to balance those out, and hopefully our having a good investment philosophy and rebalancing in those times helps us kind of stay the course with people.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that like a lot of these systems we built, like the rebalancing system, when the opportunities show themselves, are systems that have tolerance bands, right? That give us the trigger when to do that. Because I'm not a robot, right? Like I'm not immune to emotion. So these systems also help us keep in line the philosophy that we've built to keep our clients on the plan that we've talked about for them.
Totally. In 2008, seeing clients or people who came to us but maybe hadn't ever rebalanced their accounts, get a lot of growth when things are going up, and then you have maybe more downside than you expect when things are going down. So important to stay within those guardrails.
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge, everyone's human, right? And it's emotion can essentially take out the complete amount of logic that goes into some decision making. So definitely something to keep in mind when talking to investors.
Yeah. So, we're recording this here and it's, spring of 2025. It's been a really volatile few weeks here. And so it made me think of, what do you think is something important for, clients and families to consider when things have been as volatile as they have been recently? What do you hope they're thinking about or have heard in your meetings with them to, take away from them when things get, uncomfortable in markets?
Yeah, I think staying the course is a pretty powerful thing to think about. People say, well, a lot of this volatility recently has been around tariffs, right? And what do tariffs mean? Like, we've never seen tariffs before. That might be some of the questions you get. Well, there's lots of things that we hadn't seen before that we got through. We've recently been through a global pandemic, right? We had the interest rate rises on the bond market. There was the '08 housing crisis. There was a tech bubble, right? There's always been this new thing of what the markets did and the reason why. But we've always persisted and always gotten through that. And a lot of that is staying in your seat through an investment philosophy that you believe in. And so that's kind of where I'd come back to when things are moving around a lot. It's nice to have a plan that that you're comfortable with in the long term.
So let's talk then about a little bit about taxes, and obviously Caleb's part of our tax team here too. So when we think about investing and tax efficiency, how do we approach that and kind of keep that as part of the financial plan?
Yeah, well, Caleb and I actually sit in a lot of meetings together, so it's kind of fun that we'll go back and forth on. Caleb will say, "Oh, this is great for your taxes because it's a big loss or something," and then I'll say, "Well, actually, no, it's still a loss, right? It's not always great." So there's always like the tax lens, and then sometimes can be like the real lens of that. And but I think every move that we make inside a portfolio can cause some sort of tax implication. And just being conscious of that, depending on what kind of accounts there are, what kind of positions they are, and really approaching it with a level of detail to keep in mind. We want to be conscious of that when moving to each unique scenario.
Yeah, Matt's job is to make people money. My job is to spend it so they don't have big tax bills. So the two of it works pretty well together. I mean, obviously, the most important thing is Matt's job. He's the IRS is never going to take 100% of it. So you never want the tax to be the main driver. So let the plan be the driver, but just be conscious of what the tax consequences are, for sure.
Yeah, there's so much benefit in I think the integrated approach that we often have. And so I always feel like, clients, you can learn to be aware of all these things, or you can let us, we'll have discussions internally, we'll share it all with you, talk about the details. You are informed, you make the decisions, and then we'll handle, the implementations and the tax reporting and everything else, so that you go and live your life and do the things that you can do and that you enjoy.
Yeah, we had a great example of that today. We actually just finished a meeting, really kind of fascinating one. Afterwards, Matt and I, a couple of the taxi members, just powwowed for 10 minutes trying to get together and figure out, what are we going to do? We know this person's plan. How do we make the financial part, the tax part? How does that all work together? So when we can do that, things go really well.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, Matt, you mentioned some other, kind of bigger market events that, have happened in the past. So what do you think are some lessons that you've learned from guiding clients through, those previous volatile times that influence your current investment philosophy?
Yeah, I think, it can kind of be an important exercise to know when you get into, or when you decide on like an investment philosophy, that it's something you're comfortable in for the long time, right? If you're making decisions, again, this comes back to what I said earlier. When there's emotion involved, it kind of takes the logic out of the decision making. And when there's emotion involved, it's usually in a time where there's lots of volatility of up or down. And so when there's not that volatility time and you are using logic to make your decisions, having that play through those volatile times can really help you stay in your seat, I think. So,
well, and so I guess so. Think about staying in our seat, and you brought up the financial plan, which I think is such a critical part of this. We're called the planning center for a reason. Everybody's got a plan that we're working on, and through towards their future. So, are there points or places where you think that somebody maybe adjusts their investment philosophy, whether that's closer to retirement or at retirement, or any other places where you think that it's more important even to take a look at things, and where are you at it from an investment standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's kind of three things that go into like when should I adjust my portfolio, right? And believe it or not, none of those things are like, okay, the markets are way down, so like let's do that in terms of the long term scale. What I'd really look at is, what's your time horizon? What's your like risk capacity and your risk tolerance, right? So, and what I mean by those last two is, what's the capacity you have from other resources to be able to adjust this portfolio. And the other one is your risk tolerance, right? If you're wanting to get more aggressive or less, like more conservative, and it's going to keep you up at night in either direction, well, it's probably not worth the extra 1 or 2% or whatever it may be on the portfolio if you're totally stressing yourself out, which I think kind of goes to the title of this podcast of Beyond the Numbers, on, making this a little life and wealth balance, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's, wealth-life balance is a tagline for us as the firm, because it's something we really believe in. And this wealth idea is, it's money is important, but it can't provide the things that really make a life vibrant and wealthy. It can certainly support that. It can allow you to have those opportunities, but when it comes down to it, we're helping people live the lives that they want to. And so yes, I think it's so critical to, find ways to balance those things so that you can get where you want to go with your goals and do so in a way that you can feel as comfortable about as you can with, a modern, complicated world.
I heard a interesting statistic too on just talking about like looking at your portfolio and changing your portfolio. There's a statistic on from Dimensional Fund Advisors that they looked at a 60-40 portfolio over like a 40-year span. And in that 40-year span, just think about it like this. Every time the portfolio is up, you're happy. And every time it's down, it's pain, right? And during that 40-year span, if you looked at your portfolio every single day, you'd have about 19 years of pain. If you looked at it once a month, it's about 14 years of pain. And if you look at it once a year, it's about 7 years of pain. So there's also probably some healthiness on like, how closely am I watching this in terms of how it's going up and down, and how just generally how markets move in general too.
Sure. It's so true. And I think there's often that inclination, or you hear a headline or a story, and now it's easier than ever to go and look at your account balance and check on things. And it's probably not, doesn't make you feel better. It's not helping you make choices that, it's not helping you enjoy your life or do any things. And it increases stress, and it decreases our, I think, our ability to do, live a life that we love. So, watching our own behaviors has a lot to do with this at times too.
And I think that's kind of our thing. Obviously, Matt knows the investments and does a really good job of the investments, but beyond those investments is what is the overall plan. So yes, we can talk numbers, but I think, as Jude always says, control what we can control. We can't control what the stock market does. Yeah, we can control how we react to that. We can do these rebalancing things. We have all these things we can do when something happens, but we can't control that. So control what we actually can control. And that's the way to actually have a positive influence in your life, rather than just dreading the next income numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're about to pivot to kind of our rapid fire questions. So anything else on, that you'd hope a client would know or take away from, from our conversation, thinking about how we look at investments on their behalf?
I think just in general, there's a way that we take in the values that the client has, and talking about, their values, and making sure that your portfolio is aligned to what those values are in life too.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think this is all about building a life and using your money to support it, and not, sometimes I think too many people get caught up on trying to squeeze their life into their money, and so if we think about what's the life you want to have, and then build a plan to support that vision, I think we'll get a lot closer to where you want to end up. All right, Matt. So we got some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
All right. Let's bring them on.
Good deal. What is your favorite animal?
My 4-year-old asks me this all the time. Probably something that could fly. I'd be like, maybe like a falcon or an eagle, I think would be probably my choice.
All right. We'll stay away from the football references there, but good. I like the idea of flying. That's good. Is there an item you think is always worth spending more money on?
I've bought some like pretty cheap pairs of shoes before, and I've kind of found that it's worth going the little bit of extra cost on a good pair of shoes. So
that's the classic answer.
Specifically work boots. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that is. Caleb's was shoes and bed. So yes, I'll be curious to see how many times that comes up.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best money you've ever spent?
Well, I did mention that I like music and I'm a musician, and probably my first guitar, just when I look at the amount of money I spent on it versus the amount of joy it's brought me over my life, like that's probably the most material thing I would say I would get out of.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I mean, and yeah, it feels like that music life lessons where you have that for your life. That's a yeah, pretty big return on cost there, right? Do you still have that guitar?
I do. I don't think I'll ever sell it or get rid of it unless I pass it on to like my kids or something like that, you know.
So what is it? That's the question.
It's a Gibson SG cherry
Nice.
red.
Gibson SG. That's great. I like it.
All right, so tell me about the last achievement that you all celebrated as a family. Like, what did you celebrate and how did you celebrate it?
Last achievement as a family?
Yeah, or you, but yeah.
We're having our third child, so that's a pretty big achievement. Check in with me in about 2 months, and I'll tell you how that achievement is going. That's when she's due. So, but we're all pretty excited and celebrating the announcement of that, and getting family together, I think, is probably what I'm most proud of in that realm of achievements.
Nice. Yeah, and your family is you'll have a lot of family nearby. It seems like.
I do, yeah. Most of my family's from the area and grew up around here, so I've got a lot of like community and family ties, which love that as well.
Yeah, that's great.
That's a value for me, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think knowing those and living in alignment with it makes such a huge difference. So that's it's playing the game the best way you think you can. So travel, favorite place to visit?
My favorite place actually isn't too far from me, and I don't even know if I'd really classify it as travel, but my dad bought some property that's kind of like a little pond lake that I've grown up fishing at, and I've taken my kids out there, and it's really a place of gathering for like my family over the years. We like do our family Christmas out there and things too. And that's got to be my favorite place in the world, even above all these Grand Canyon and stuff like that, just probably because of the memories that have been associated with it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What a cool thing to have as a family, and to build those new memories now with your children.
Mm-hmm.
They any dream trip that you would take or a place you'd want to go?
Yeah, actually, my wife and I just talked about this. Our 10-year anniversary is coming up. We've never been to Hawaii. And so I think that hopefully maybe in year 2027 might be our goal to get out there.
Nice. Well, that's great. I'd say I could give you advice, but it's from our honeymoon, which was in 2005. So it's been a while. So you'll probably need to update your notes.
Yeah, I'll still take some advice.
Yeah. All right. If I told you to buy some happiness, what would you buy and how much would it cost?
That's a good question. I think I'd probably want to buy some sort of experience, whether it be like a family trip or something like that. In terms of what I'd probably get the most joy out. I did mention like family is a big value for me. So doing something with family or friends would probably be top of my list there.
Yeah. And that shifts too. Like your kids are little and it's hard to think about like, client told me recently, they said, traveling with my 2-year-old is just parenting somewhere else. And so it's a different world at that age. So, all right. Best advice anybody ever gave you?
This is a pretty simple statement, but it goes deep if you really look into it. My dad's always mentioned do things the right way. And I can't quite like put together, okay, how do you define the right way? But there's been certain moments where that stuck out. And I think it can apply to like pretty much everything. I'd probably have to go with that if I had to pick one piece of advice.
Nice. That sounds solid to me. So we'll close that one for you on that note. So Matt, thanks a bunch for joining us today. It was really fun to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think this is great and look forward to hearing all the episodes that are coming out.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. Well, so at the Planning Center, we help financially successful families transform wealth beyond those numbers into purposeful living. And so we provide human-centered guidance to help bridge technical expertise with your life designs and goals. So ensuring that money serves your deeper yes while you're creating meaningful legacies for the people that you love. To reach us, you can reach Matt Knoll here at mattk@theplanningscenter.com. We have 3 Matts on the team, so no more Matts on the hiring list, but Matt K at theplanningscenter.com. Caleb is Caleb at theplanningscenter.com, and I am Jude at theplanningscenter.com. You can learn more about us on the website and catch podcast episodes and show notes at theplanningscenter.com/pod. Thanks for joining us today. Please like and follow us, and we'll see you on the next episode.